started. If everyone could please find a seat. I'll give everyone a minute. So I want to introduce myself. My name is Jane, and I'm the fundraising coordinator for the Cancer Research and Life. And I just want to thank everyone for coming out here tonight. We appreciate you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedules to be here. We couldn't have made it this far without all of your support. So for that, I would like you all to give yourselves a round of applause. Next, I want to acknowledge the dedication of my hardworking and talented team, because without their support, this night would not come together. And I appreciate them dearly. So I would like everyone to stand when I call your name. So I would like to start with Zari. Alex. Ali. Maria. Carlos. And of course, Dr. Nizami.
I didn't know that I work for you.
You don't work for me, but you help. You help support. I'd also like to thank each person in the audience. I know a lot of you have traveled a great distance to be here, and we appreciate that so much. Your support and decision to invest your time in order to be here and your energy attending is to be applauded as well. So please give yourselves a round of applause. So at this time, I would like to take a moment to honor a very special person to our foundation. Because of his generosity, we have been able to grant much needed medical treatment to patients in need. I would like to call Jim Townsend up to the stage. There you go, Jim. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. So I know you're all here for the main event, so I'll keep this very brief. Please take a moment to look in front of you. We provided you with documents. There's a membership form. There's a donation form. There's also a suggestion form. I would love to hear any comments you have, anything you liked, anything you think we can improve on, or any ideas you have for our future events. We greatly appreciate, any ideas you have to support us. Also, at the very end, after everyone's done speaking, I'm going to come up and announce the silent auction winners. So please hold tight for that after Dr. Zahn. Next, I would like to welcome to the stage Diane Colvin, who is another former patient.
Hi, I'm Diane. How are you? First of all, I just wanted to say thank you for letting me be here, and I'm thankful to be here, and thank you, Dr. Nizami. And it's been a long journey, and which started back 13 years ago, April. And anyways, my oncologist is the one that told me to go see Dr. Nizami. And since I've been following her since '08, I said, okay, if you were going to do it, I guess I will do it too. And I ended up right across the street from Hope Hospital where I started. So anyways, if I could tell anybody that just come visit Dr. Nizami, have a consult. It doesn't hurt to, see what all your options are. Because if you go to traditional oncologists, they only have certain options. And I did that before, and just didn't work, and I didn't want to do it again. So if there's anybody out there that just have them come see Dr. Nizami. And I see patients all the time. I meet him, and it's amazing of all the things that he does and helps. And yeah, this is much better than chemo and radiation and all that stuff. So yeah, spread the word, and just whatever you can do to help out. And and the foundation has also been great. And there's another foundation that also maybe can come help together with, so we can help more people, so they don't have to have the toxic side effects of chemo and radiation and all the surgeries that, boy, I wish I never had. So thank you very much, and thank you, Dr. Nizami.
Well, Dr. Nizami, after 4 years, I'm feeling better than ever. I had stage 4 cancer diagnosed, and this would have been 4 years ago. And we were just in a state of shock. And, just in 3 weeks, I was cancer-free. They'd gone out of my blood, and then a scan I took was cleared. So But, it's one of those decisions in your life when you just feel the sky is falling. And what do? The conventional says do this, and you feel that pressure and that pull. And, our better angels guided us in this. And this is my better angel here. This is my wife, Deb. So she kind of gave me the final push, so I'm so glad and I'm so grateful. But from that time, I've just been cancer-free for 4 years, and that's with a late stage and a Gleason 8 prostate cancer. I want to thank Dr. Nizami and his staff and the foundation. They specialize in speaking the language of health. And it starts with how they are, their manner with the patients, and their concerns, and how they fine-tune and I would say tweak in layman's language. But they're very attentive, and even with Dr. Nizami's laughter bellowing through the lobby, it feels to me like he's telling us, yes, we can be healthy. My image of Dr. Nizami is he's like a riverboat, steamboat pilot, and he's gently navigating his patients around the treacherous currents of the rivers of our lives. And that's a high calling. And nowadays when somebody says, it's a nice day, have a nice day, I think twice about that. I do a double take and I think, yes, I will have a nice day, thank you, like never before. And it's a chance to bless somebody and a chance to venture further on in our days and for discovery and a chance to become more and deeper in relationship with my family and with the rest of the world. Thank you, Dr. Nizami.
Well, my husband, I've seen a transformation in him in the last 4 years. He's lived a new life. Before then, he had been through radiation, high dose, low dose. He'd taken drugs. And I just saw the suffering he went through with that, and it's hard. It's very hard, for those who've gone through it. And then it went away for a little while, and then when it came back and it had gone further in his body, it was like, oh wow, what are we going to do now? And we talked to different doctors, and it was not a rosy picture. It was like, we'll slow it down, but it'll just take you to the grave. And it's like, okay, this is serious. This is like, wow, what are we going to do? And it was right about then. It was a God thing. Somebody mentioned my girlfriend got healed from stage 4 cancer through Dr. Nizami, and I wrote his name down. Okay, we'll add him to our list. But when the list got exhausted and his name was the only one left, and we were, well, let's check him out. And we did. And we sat in the waiting room for quite a while waiting to see him. But that was a God thing too, because it was full of patients talking, testimonies, upbeat, laughing. We're like, what kind of cancer clinic is this? This is pretty cool. People flying in from all over to get his treatments. And so that was, by the time we saw Dr. Nizami, we were like halfway enrolled, and then he enrolled us the rest of the way, just like... And he said, after we talked about it, he said, I think I can help you. I think I can help you. And, without knowing for sure, you're investing, you're putting the time in, and we hope it works. And we got the good news, like Dave said, pretty quickly. And things turned around amazingly quickly, and there was no negative side effects. He's getting these healthy treatments that are building his body up to fight the cancer. It was like the most beautiful thing that could have happened. And so we thank God for you, Dr. Tommy. We thank you and the team at the clinic that make it all work. So it's been a lifesaver, it's been a life changer, and we're forever grateful. Thank you.
Can we get a round of applause for David and Debbie, please? And next to this stage, I would like to welcome Dr. Nizami.
All right. You didn't let me finish my Anyways, who is this Dr. Nizami? I heard a lot of good things about it. All right. How do you change the slides? Oh, okay. All right, so I always, first of all, thank you for coming. I think it's a great gathering tonight. It's, as many other things in my life, beyond what I planned. And one of the ways that you can define superpower, God, every religion and every faith system calls it differently, but whatever it is, you want to call it, is to define what we try to accomplish, and at times it doesn't happen, and what we don't try, and it happens. So there is somebody else involved. And I think many of the things that I have done in my life, including accomplishments in the cancer therapeutics, was beyond what I thought I could do. So it was a so-called blessing. Anyways, I used to give scientific talks and people like that, but in the sense of pleasing everyone here in this gathering, from doctors who have attended, and I really appreciate the fact that many of them have come from very long distances to be here tonight with us, to other providers in the medical field, nurses, who I think have, many of them contributed to the health and well-being of the patients beyond doctors. Just that as a side note. And obviously the patients, who all we do is for them. And patient advocates, many of you are involved with other foundations, and I'm very pleased to have you all here tonight. So thank you from me and the foundation to all of you for attending, spending time with us tonight, and I hope you enjoy it. But besides the science part, that I think is very boring, even for me as a doctor, I read oncology materials, all the research that is coming out every day and every month. I have this stack of journals that comes every month to my clinic, and I take it as a homework still, like a 5th grader. Take it home and read these materials, and it's so boring. So I try to make it a little bit beyond scientific and boring stuff for tonight. And I really thought about what I'm going to talk about. You know, in other annual events that we had, I talked a lot about medical stuff. But then tonight I decided to give it a little bit different taste. So it gets a little bit more personal, and I hope that we, as connected as we are, we can even be more connected after we leave this room. Okay. So I call it Live for a Mission for the talk. And obviously for the foundation, I love this phrase, we rise by lifting others. And let me put it a little bit more in a different perspective when I say we rise by lifting others. There is always this question that comes from my patients when they come to see me at different stages of their treatment or their journey. They ask me, why not other doctors do what you do? Or why not other doctors understand my concerns like you do? What is it missing in other doctors' mentality? And I think this is what is missing, is that when they treat the patient, they don't connect with the patient. So you're the patient, and I'm here, and there is a vacuum here that nothing penetrates through it. So if you're sad, or if you're happy, if you have difficulties with your treatment journey, I'm listening, but I'm not connecting. So as soon as that disconnect goes away, then you really enjoy being able to play a part as the patient's advocate, as the patient's family, as somebody who patient is comfortable to share all their concerns with, and you really can care. So I learned through treatments of my patients, through decades of doing so, on how I can enjoy when I tell the patient that your cancer is gone. I can enjoy when I tell the patient, you're doing better. Your cancer is going away. I'm sitting here and I'm listening to my patients coming to the podium and talking about their journey. And I have this sense of joy. It has nothing to do with self-satisfaction, has nothing to do with the arrogance or feeling, oh, I did it. But the way that I enjoy, because they enjoy the life. Because I made somebody who was in pain and suffering and worrying, now in peace and painless and cancer-free. So as soon as that becomes the connection between the doctor and the patient, then you like to invest in what you enjoy. As a doctor, you start to learn that, yeah, I can, there is this great place that we can take a vacation to, and we can go to Hawaii and enjoy the beach and have a margarita. That's a good, joyful vacation. Or I can sit here in my clinic and observe a patient who is on a wheelchair, and after the same time that I'm supposed to spend in my vacation, I can see this patient coming out of the wheelchair and walk. Yeah. So you see what I'm saying, and I've done that in the past many times, that I have canceled my vacations during the Christmas time and New Year, where everybody is going for a vacation. I said, no, I can't. I stay in the clinic because I know if I go for a vacation and I come back, this patient is not going to be there. And as soon as you make that intention, as soon as you tell yourself, or whatever power is out there, we call it God, as soon as you tell yourself that I will commit myself to this patient, and I don't know what's going to happen, I don't know if my treatment is going to work, but I will do it, I will try, I will, what so-called Christians call sacrifice, right? The doors are going to open. And the same way that, again, a lot of Christians are here in this gathering tonight. As soon as you do that, the same way that Jesus touched water and it turned to wine, it's going to happen. I wish doctors had that will, because the doors will be open. So, we rise by lifting others. Now you know what I'm talking about. I also wanted to tell you on the medical side of it, what I know now is just, I was not born to be a genius. I was not born to have 48 patents on a treatment for cancer, as I do. But I did only one thing that made me be able to do what I'm doing. That one thing was that I observed the patients and I learned from them. Sometimes people ask me, where in the medical school did they teach you this stuff? Which school did you go that they taught you how to treat cancerous stem cells? And I tell them, I pretty much don't practice what I was taught. But I learn from the patients, I observe them, and every patient that comes to see me, I try to apply the treatment responses and the experience that I learned from the prior patient to the next one. So I learn, I evolve. And so not only we rise by lifting others, we learn by trying to save other people. We as doctors evolve by connecting with patients, not by medical journals. As I said, I publish in medical journals, I publish in clinical journal of oncology, the Bibles of oncology, I present at ASCO. I pretty much am the peer reviewer for many of these oncology journals. But yet I can tell you that I don't practice what the journal says, because what the journal says, the outcomes are laughable. You have no idea how much the medical industry is investing on the treatments that have pretty much no results. Okay, next one. Okay, so my mission is to rise. All right. We talked about this a little bit. Is there a way you can make this a little bit larger font or larger so it's hard for me to read it from?
My mission is to rise, so I have to lift others.
That's good. Yes. Yes. Mhm. Yes. So, next one. All right. This is the good part. So, when I wanted to go to medicine, I was terrible in biology. In fact, I was so bad that I almost failed. And I was really good in math and physics. So, back from where I am in the Middle East, Iranian. So in my country, if you are a very good student, you have to be either a lawyer or a doctor. And so I said, I don't like law and I don't like medicine. And I'm short in my memory, so there's no way I can become a good doctor. And so my dad said, okay, then you have to leave the house. And I said, are you serious? He said, yeah, you have to be a doctor. All right, so I started medicine with a terrible short memory. I didn't like biology. And I think one of the reasons that I luckily am so good in what I'm doing is because I'm not using my memory, and as much as I read the journals of medicine, I only use what makes sense. So I only use my math. So for you to be able to be a good doctor, I think, or at least if it's called the secret of how you can do what I'm doing, is you have to have three components. One is art, the other one is science. I call it maths because I use math in science, what we call mathematical biology nowadays, and faith. So how does these three mix up? How can you mix math with art and faith? Well, first of all, if you want to, let's say, draw a painting, right? You have to imagine it. If you don't imagine what you want to paint, you cannot paint it. So when you see a patient, the first thing you are going to do is to imagine that this patient is going to be well, healed, cured. It starts with that. In order to do that, you have to use your faith because you have to believe it, and you have to use the art to be able to implement your imagination into reality. And obviously you need to make sense out of the biological information. I went to Harvard stem cell research conferences in 2012 in Boston. And what I learned was that Harvard stem cell research department was recruiting MIT engineers to implement new therapeutics in cancer stem cell. And so I realized that this is beyond something that doctors can do, because everybody was sitting there with PhDs, and PhDs not in medicine, but PhDs in math. And so they could configure the DNA apparatus into mathematical formulation, and they could use therapeutics to treat the patient. And that's exactly what I started to do back in 2012. So when you learn about the genomic network, then you have to start calculating number by number, very objectively, on how you can make the difference on these numbers based on the cross network of the genetics. And that was something that, again, was very stimulating to me. So I was able to implement my physics and math background into this. So I started to formulate the treatment based on molecular profiling. It was luckily at the time that the whole genomic-wide association studies were coming out, and then further the epigenetics were discovered and coding were done. And so I was able to connect all this information and implement it into the discoveries at the time to be able to practically treat the patient. Next one. Okay, so this one is basically a doctor who has a box in his mind. And if you had gone to see an oncologist, you really know what I'm talking about. So there is nothing besides that box. And guess what? The funny thing is that these so-called standard of care treatments, they change. So when I read the materials that are coming out right now, you see that they are talking about the things that I was talking 10 years ago. Now they're talking about, oh, maybe the chemotherapy is not as effective as we thought about. And now they know, oh, maybe the chemotherapy is actually causing the disease to spread. You know, all these patients that they came and talked tonight, and many others are still here and they didn't have the opportunity to talk. The reason that they responded was because they were not receiving chemotherapy. And if they had received chemotherapy, the tumor had spread immediately. So these are the knowledge, these are the things that I was talking about 10 years ago, and now still has not changed. We're still using the first chemo agent that was discovered in 1940s, megloretinib, in the treatment of leukemia. Next one. So cancer is becoming an epidemic. 65% of all critical illness claims are cancer. Pretty much you can think about 1 out of 2 men and 1 out of 3 women is going to die of cancer. That is old. I think very soon we will see in 2030 that cancer not only is the first cause of death, but also will become so, if you see somebody who doesn't have cancer, you will scratch your head. So everybody, unfortunately, with the path that we're going, is going to die of cancer. There are a lot of significant improvements in the treatment of cardiovascular disease, so that has improved. Unfortunately, cancer not so much. And in fact, in some types of cancer, the death rate has increased. So if you, for example, look at colorectal cancer death compared to 2016 to now in 2021, it has increased about 6%. Especially in younger individuals that are less than 60 and one is 55, the risk of not only incidence of colorectal cancer, but also death from colorectal cancer have both increased. So you scratch your head that what are we doing in the research field? All the money that goes, unfortunately, in the research that is only paid for the administrative and the games that they play, and the money never comes out with a fruitful result. It's just supporting the pharmaceutical company-sponsored trials. Next one. So just look at this picture for a second. This is a network of cancer cells and their microenvironment. You see exactly those 3 things that I told you. There is a very, very interesting mathematical correlation that is there. And there is a very beautiful, colorful, artistic. If somebody doesn't know it's cancer, they think it's a painting, right? It's a piece of art. So how could you not say that you need to be an artistic physician to treat? You have to look at it as art. And you have to calculate the relationship of these cells. Next one. So, I think I have 3 things that defines me, I would say. So I am good in math, as I said, and I am very good in art. And beyond that, because I have faith, I don't have fear. You see all these patients who came by here and they said, we saw Dr. Nizami, and he said, I got it. How does that come? I mean, I literally have patients that they come to see me and they tell me, my oncologist, when he sees me, he's more scared than I am. My oncologist looks at me and looks at my chart and then he's shaking. And I tell them, hey, calm down, it's okay, I'll be okay. I tell my doctor, I'll be okay, don't worry about me. And then when they come to see me, I tell them exactly the same thing. I tell them, you'll be okay. And when I say you'll be okay, it's not just because I believe in what I do, but I also believe in who is in charge. What that means is that if you make the right intention, that water turns into wine. Next one. Okay, this is me when I was in the school from Einstein. No, I wasn't. This was math. Next one. No. So back to my resume. So when you look at me, just remember there are 3 things about me. I know art, I know math, and I have faith. The rest of the stuff over there, over 100 publications, and I wrote the textbook on oncology, all that, forget it. Next one. These are some of my publications, as I said. Next one. Next one. Why do I do what I do? Because I enjoy it. Because I enjoy being able to make a difference in people's life. That wall that I told you, that vacuum space does not exist. So when I go to office, I know that there's not a bad day. I know when I go to the office, I always have good news for the patient so I can enjoy what I do. And I literally can tell you, every oncologist that I have as friends, and many of them were my classmates in school, they have gone to Stanford Hematology Oncology, they're directors of the Genentech drug pharmaceuticals, many of them, they were classmates of mine. And every day they come home nervous, and they are worried that the patient is going to sue them because the medications that they were using were overprescribed, and they give too much chemotherapy to the patient. I don't deal with that kind of stuff. Next one. Okay, can you play this video? And I want you to see this 19-year-old bride with cancer who wanted to have her wedding in the hospital while she was going through chemotherapy. Does it have noise?
I don't think we have sound.
Okay. You can, please, I encourage you to look this up. It's available in the YouTube and Facebook. This was a 19-year-old who died of kidney cancer. While she was going through this, she had a wish to marry before she dies. And as you can see in the hospital, how are we living in the 21st century when our 19-year-old is struggling with kidney cancer, our oncologist cannot help her, and she has to go through this with suffering and pain, and 2 days later die. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing, and this should be why you are here. Okay, so there's a lot about how we decide in everything in our life, logics and emotions. And hopefully in one other time, when the time is right and I have more different platform, I can talk about how the human brain works and how we make decisions based on logics or emotion. And I can tell you that when a patient comes to see me, they have so much pressure from different family members, oncologists, internet information, friends and family. Everybody is pulling them into different directions to do different things. And if they want to logically think about different options, so many beautiful hospitals are out there with so many famous doctors and brands and concierges and you name it. And then there's this Dr. Nizami who's sitting in his clinic in Newport Beach, and he has a couple of people working in his clinic. So why should I go there? I could easily go to USC, UCLA, Stanford, Johns Hopkins, Mayo Clinic, MD Anderson. So logically, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for somebody to come and tell me, Dr. Nizami, I'm giving my life to you, not to every other doctor out there, every other university and hospital with billions of dollars in budget for research in cancer. So they make the decision based on emotion. And guess what? They make it. So just keep that in mind, that feelings and emotions are very, very strong tool. If you use it in the right place, it's so much more powerful than the mind. Next one. Okay, this guy is using his emotions, not logics. Yeah, what are the odds that he doesn't fall from there? That's almost how a patient who comes to see me makes that decision. Next one. Okay, so just like I said, you gotta go with your heart. Every time that you're dealing with a very stressful situation in life, just trust your gut. Next one. Okay, let's talk about a little bit about science. So we have something called translational science. Translational science means that you have something that you discover or you prove the concept in the laboratory, then you take that into the different models of drug development, and then you come up with a discovery, right? So you say, I tested this and it worked, and I can do something. Translational science is huge. Pretty much the field is owned by the PhDs in the laboratory. But unfortunately, there is huge gap between what is going on in the lab, and the work of the PhDs, and what the doctor is doing in his office. Why? I'll show you why. Next one. Okay, because there are 3 other circles that are not letting that translational science to become available for the patients. Whatever you see as that dark black square that is shared between all those 4 is what comes out to the clinic. Why? Because if you got a translational science that is not reimbursed by insurance and approved by the FDA and you cannot market it, then it stays there unused. So now you know what the challenge is when I'm sitting in my clinic and treating patients that are referred to me by friends and family, is because I do not have the other circles that promote and push this treatment out, versus the other medications that have no science behind them, but they have all 3 other pushing insurances, reimbursements, marketing, FDA, then obviously it becomes available in every hospital, but it has no scientific merit. So this slide was presented in Molecular Medicine Tricon. Is the second biggest, largest genomic conference in the world where I presented. And then somebody came and he was giving a lecture to us, telling us that don't focus, to the doctors, to the PhDs, don't focus your efforts just on science. You have to focus your energy on the other parts because the science is not going to be used. I was disgusted. I came out of that conference so disgusted that why should it be that the science becomes a tool and left behind by other things that has basically just no value? Next one. You see now, that box that this oncologist is sitting there and prescribing medicine is not the translational science. Is only the fraction of translational science that has covered from 3 other circles. That's the problem. Next one. Now we're talking about translational science. So my mission was that I don't care about the other 3 What I care about is to implement what the translational science is, what works in the lab, what works and is proven to be safe and effective. I will use it. I don't care about insurance reimbursement. I don't care. That's why I got the foundation. That's why you're here. Because I said, regardless of the insurance reimbursement, I look at the outcome. If the patient doesn't make it, they're not supposed to pay for something that makes them sick and it doesn't help them. There should not be financial incentives for oncologists to prescribe a medication where it doesn't work. So that was the basis of my practice. And so I made it my mission to focus on one circle out of 4, translational science. So you see the slide that's sitting there is an example of that. So we started with working with major academic institutions, looking at, this is an ovarian cancer cell line that was cultured in 3-dimensional cell culture model back in 2014 and 15. There was only one institute in MD Anderson that they had these capabilities, so we did a study with them. And as you can see, out of those 4 lines that are out there in different combinations of concentrations of the medication, natural compounds that I use, the invasion and growth of the tumor completely stops. So if you can use this model and apply that in human being, you can see the same results. Because 3-dimensional cell culture model is the closest in vitro model that mimics human body. So you can see that ovarian cancer starts to come down, 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 and the flat line is a stop. Next one. This is another one we used to work with Diatech Laboratory in Canada, and in different exposures of this breast cancer cell line and in different exposures of different compounds, the tumor completely resistant. So those are small lines, red lines that you can see, shows that the tumor cells are not responding. So chemotherapy is completely ineffective. And then you see those bars that goes to the sky. What we call kinetic unit of apoptosis increased from less than 4 to 40 something. So you see more than 10 times activity than the chemotherapy alone. Next one. This is a hypoxia-inducible factor 1. As we speak, it's a target that is not actionable. There's no drug for it. Again, when the tumor grows, it grows very much like a fetus. So inside the tumor, there is lack of oxygen or activation of hypoxia-inducible factor 1. And so the fetus grows and it stimulates the mother, in this case the host, to produce new blood vessels around it, and so it starts to disseminate. So this is a very easy concept. Remember math. You got cells, they grow, they have connection, they produce this sort of network, they send the signal for vascular growth factor, blood vessels come around, a sequence of events. And as you can see, in different concentrations of the compounds and the protocol I use, completely shuts down, meaning that there is absolutely no way that the tumor can spread. All the signal that is sent to the microenvironment to produce new blood vessels is shut down. And this is a pancreatic cancer, by the way. So everybody says, we don't know how to treat pancreatic cancer. Pancreatic cancer is deadly. People die less than 6 months. Okay, how does it grow? This is how it grows. Why does it kill the person? Because it metastasizes in. Okay, so how can you stop it? You stop the hypoxia inside the tumor. So the tumor flats, and then everything else you do, tumor is exposed. There is no what we call spheroid. So the architecture of this spheroid becomes disrupted. Next one. Conventional oncology outcome. Oh, I don't. You guys read that because it's just too far for me to read it.
Conventional oncology outcomes. Despite all efforts of research and drug development in cancers, the death rate of cancer has not changed. In fact, it is expected to be increased in some types, such as lung cancer. Nearly over $200 billion are spent in oncology research. The average cost of a cancer patient is $2 million. 1.7 million new cases are diagnosed every year in the U.S. alone. 800,000 people die every year in the United States because of cancer, 1 every 20 seconds. the first cause of death in the United States, 1 out of 2 men and 1 out of 3 women will die of cancer.
Yes, thank you. So as I said, it's epidemic. So this data was 1.5 million per year, and that was in 2015, and now in 2021 is 1.7 million per year. The death was 500,000 per year, and now it's 750,000 per year. So as you can see, it's just skyrocketing, and it's not going to get better. And obviously, we're looking at the wrong place in conventional treatments. Next one. Survival-based strategies. Okay, so how does it work again? I know yeah, you use art and math, but how does it work? Okay, so when a patient comes to see me, let's make it very simple. Patient comes to see me, we look at what matters. Size of a tumor has nothing to do with the patient's survival. Number one, size of a tumor has nothing to do with the patient's survival. So why are we using chemotherapy? In best scenario, it's going to shrink the tumor. So all we're doing as far as trying to make the tumor smaller doesn't matter. Patient dies of metastatic disease. Patient dies if a tumor spreads. And the tendency of a tumor to spread is higher when the tumor is shrunk. So we're making the tumor smaller, but then the tumor is spread. So the idea here is to look at what matters. What matters are circulating tumor cells, which are spreading from the tumor. What matters is the metabolic activity, the PET scan, which tells you how much you have intratumoral hypoxia. And then what matters is also the epigenetics of the tumor that dictates the transcriptional factors and growth factors. So these are the things that dictate blood vessels around the tumor, circulating tumor cells, and metabolic activity of the tumor. So what we do, we check them. So when a patient comes, we check these markers. And then we put the patient under treatment. And 2 weeks later, we check the same markers. Because all these markers are prognostic. So it correlates with the patient's survival. If they come down, the patient's going to make it. If they don't come down, the patient is not going to make it. So with a very short snapshot of the patient's response, you can tell if the patient is going to make it for many years or not. When the results come back, you sit down with the patient and tell them, this is where you were and this is where you are. Remember, math. Everything's objective with numbers. And then they will confirm that they made the right decision to see. Next one. Okay. So prognostic markers, as you may see here. So this is a slide that represents why we're doing molecular profiling. So when you do molecular profiling on the patient, you basically get information that has to do specifically with the tumor of that patient. The science is called precision oncology. What does that mean? Let's say we have 5 patients with breast cancer in this room. And each of these 5 persons with breast cancer has a different genomics and different tumor markup that we have to discover. In order to do that, we have to get a liquid biopsy. So by doing that, you can get the genomic information about the tumor that precisely predicts tumor response. So it's individualized. So each patient receives the treatment that has to do with the genomic information of the tumor. In this slide, for example, ERCC1, PGP, RRM1, and TUBE3 are measured. These are the markers that we can get from Caris laboratory when we order molecular profiling. ERCC1 presence refers to platinum-based agents resistance. PGP or P glycoprotein refers to tumor ability to influx the chemotherapy out so that chemotherapy is not going to work. RRM1 is a chemo-resistant agent for gemcitabine, and TUBB3 is a marker for taxane-based medicine resistance. So by this test, you can tell that just doing the test before putting the patient on chemotherapy can already rule out the usefulness of chemotherapy. Because as soon as you have a patient that is positive for, let's say, RRM1, you know that gemcitabine is not going to work. So if you have a patient that has these plus, you already know that none of these chemotherapies is going to work. So instead of using blind treatments with chemotherapy, you can measure the response, and then you already know patient is not going to respond. This is an example of the work that Caris Laboratory is doing. Next one. Okay, so oncology and precision oncology are two completely different practice platforms, meaning that if you practice mainstream oncology, you cannot make it precision oncology. If you practice precision oncology, you cannot do mainstream oncology. It is just like if somebody is Muslim and at the same time Christian. It doesn't work that way. You have to pick the two, right? So oncology means that we give you what we think works without knowing your specific genetics of your tumor. Precision oncology, on the other hand, means that we do the testing to find out what works for you. And so what matters here is that, I'll give you an example. You know, David came and talked about his story, prostate cancer. Prostate cancer, when it grows, starts to metastasize. But the cells that metastasize, at times they do not have androgen receptors. Meaning that if you want to get rid of these circulating tumor cells that are spreading from the tumor outside, if you use androgen deprivation therapy or ADT, it's going to fail. Because these metastatic lesions are produced by basal cells that lack the androgen receptor, and those are the ones that circulate in the blood. This is an example of why precision oncology has better outcome than normal oncology. Next one. Okay, so again, oncology is moving away from organ of origin-based management strategies to more tailored approaches and targeted therapies that are looking at molecular characteristics. These are main understanding behind using precision oncology. So this is not something that I came up with. But what I did was that I was just able to use the knowledge in the research cutting edge fashion and implement natural treatments in the same fashion. Next one. These are all research that has been published. In many of them I have myself been involved. Next one. So if I ask the audience here where we lost the war against cancer, and I give you three choices, when we started the war, in the process, or now. What do you guys think? Who thinks that we lost the war against cancer when we started it? Okay. The rest of the people are shy. Who thinks that we lost the war against cancer in the process? Okay. And who thinks that we lost the war now? Okay. I think all of you are right, because I don't want to disappoint you. But the real answer is that there was no war. Next one. So let me tell you why there was no war. Because when you say that we have to fight with cancer, you think that cancer is your enemy. You usually go to war with your enemy. You don't go to war with your friends. But the reality is that cancer is actually made from the best cells in your body. In other words, these stem cells that are producing cancer, these are the most valuable cells in the body. All that has happened is that they have lost their ability to recognize when to stop repair. Okay, Give me an example. You know, you have a cut in your finger, and then after a few days, the fibroblasts started to fill the gap, and then platelets, fibroblasts, all that, and then it heals. Imagine that this healing process would have continued. So instead of that cut that is now filled with normal granulation tissue, you have more and more and more repair, more and more cells that are produced there. That causes tumor. So the cells are doing the right thing, but just too much of it. Okay? I sometimes give an example of going to church or attending religious things. Okay, so you go to church once a week, that's great. Twice a week, great. Every day, okay. You sleep in the church, you don't come out, there's something wrong with that. Right? So you're doing these cells are doing something right, but just too much of it. So these cells are the best cells of your body. You just have to teach them where to stop. That's where my art mind comes to play. Medicine is an art. It's not military to go to war against cancer. That doesn't work. We're not soldiers. Doctors are not generals to go to war. Just makes me laugh. Okay, so this is financial burden of non-responders. So I used to speak for Caris Laboratories. So this is a slide that I got from them. Just look at white, the non-responders. You know what that means? These are $3 billion, $2.4 billion, $600 million, $700 million we're spending on each of these drugs every year. And look at the white portion. The white portion is non-responders.
Wow.
This is crazy. Okay, so what do you think? We have more non-responders than responders, and we're spending billions of dollars on war against cancer. What kind of war is that? So there was no war. It was a made-up war because we had to sell our weapons. And these weapons were medications. So we continue to invest in medical industry, and you see the results. Next one. Okay, so the answer is that cancer is not your enemy. That's how you treat it. Cancer is not your enemy. That's why people come and see me and tell me, Doctor, I have been healthy all my life. I never did anything wrong. I was in a healthy diet, some of them vegetarians, many of them. And this person is like 30 years old, 40 years old, young, beautiful, healthy, no problem. You look at there and like, you got cancer? What did I do wrong? That's why cancer happens in very, very healthy people. It doesn't always happen in, people that are devastated and they have, it's not a heart attack that happens with people with high cholesterol and they're fat and diabetic. It happens on people who are healthy because they have more stem cells that are healthy. So they can produce more healthy tissue until it becomes a little bit unhealthy. So you see my point? There was no war. Next one. It's the same. So what is cancer? I'm writing a book now with the title I picked. It's really going to be funny for you. The title is What is Cancer for Dummies. Right? And then the subtitle is a must read for oncologists. I couldn't help myself. Yeah, so, thank you. Most of the work, obviously, that we have done is basically with the PhDs, not MDs. In conferences that I attend or have attended since 2010, every conference that I go, I have 10 PhDs and 0 MDs. Then you wonder, Next one. Simple solution to sophisticated problems. That's what I like. Simple solution to sophisticated problems. Okay. Okay, so stem cells. We're going to talk a little bit about the stem cells. When a patient comes to see me, what we see in the scan, what you see in an MRI, PET scan, CT scan, is not stem cells. That's why the size of a tumor has nothing to do with the patient's survival. What you see is the size of billions of tumor cells. These are daughter cells. And the ratio is about a couple of 100 to 1. So you have one mother cell, and then the rest of them are daughter cells. And those mother cells that we call the stem cells are like queen bees. So you got a lot of working bees and only one queen bee, which, by the way, is not touched by chemotherapy or radiation, meaning that no matter how much chemo you throw at the patient, stem cells do not have the receptors to absorb chemotherapy. Okay? So why is it that my patients have zero recurrence? Is because I treat their stem cells. Because the recurrence of the disease has nothing to do with the daughter cells. You throw as much radiation to this patient and the tumor bed has nothing to do with the recurrence. Patients recur. That's why you see everyone here was gone through this. They had recurrent disease when they come to see Dr. Nizami. Yeah. Because stem cells are not touched. In fact, there are studies that show that stem cells are aggravated by the radiation. We knew about chemotherapy. We already knew technically these cells come out of the G0 rest phase and they start to produce new daughter cells. But for radiation, there is a very interesting epigenetic mechanism that has to grow notch one pathway down to WNT, or Wnt pathway, that becomes aggravated by producing more transcription on FGF2, and tumor becomes more aggravated and spreads after radiation. Next one. Next one. Okay, so looks like a driver. What do you think? But he's looking a little bit funny. Anyways, we look at tumor driver. So if you got 5 people sitting in a cab or any car or vehicle, only one of them is driving, or a couple of them are driving, not all of them, usually one at a time is driving the tumor. And that's the beauty of precision medicine, is that you can find who is the driver and target that, instead of giving a patient a medication that doesn't imagine that this car is the tumor, is driving, 5 people are in this car, and you want to stop the car by killing the people inside. If you kill every passenger but the driver is untouched, the car is still going to move. Passengers have nothing to do with the tumor growth. So you have to find out who's the driver. That's why you do molecular profiling, and we find out what gene is driving the tumor. Next one. Okay, I'm getting tired of it. You guys want to have a drink? All right, a little bit talk about epigenetics. Epigenetics was a term that was initially presumed to be a philosophical term. First time used by Apostle. And epigene means that it's beyond gene, you don't see it. So if this is my tie, you see it, it's my gene, it's my DNA. And what you don't see in my tie, I guess it's my character. You don't know what kind of person I am, right? So that's epigene, something you don't see. So then we realize there's a chemical interaction that happens to the DNA transcription. And the mindset of a physician or a scientist about the DNA and cancer was that when you have a DNA that looks funny, it has deletion, or it has fusion, or it has translocation of chromosome, then you got cancer. Then we realized you can have an absolutely normal looking DNA, and you still can get cancer. I'll give you an example. Identical twins have exactly the same gene, right? But one gets cancer and the other one doesn't. You know, most of the discoveries that I have made, I was doing them when I was not in my office or in a medical scientific environment. This one, I was taking a shower. And I came up with this idea, like out of nowhere. Like, okay, what if we check all the identical twins that one is affected by cancer, right? Let's say breast cancer. Every identical twin, and it started with the thinking that I had an identical twin actually in my office. One had breast cancer, the other one was completely healthy. They had exactly the same gene. How does that happen? So what if we look at thousands of identical twins? And thousands of identical twins that one has breast cancer. Remember, I'm good in math. Then you can find a common pattern of the involved breast cancer patients and the unimpacted twin, and you can match this and find out what is the common gene. So I did that. Very, very time consuming for me to be able to go to the twin banks and get all this genetic information. And I'm not going to tell you what I found. But this is what I found. There is, I'm not going to tell all of it, but there is this one gene that they all share. All these identical twins that the other one is impacted. And this gene is controlled by epigenetic regulation. And that's how I actually improved my protocol to cover that specific gene. So, going back to the epigenetics, so epigene is something we don't see. What we don't see is called energy. And I met a lot of people here in this gathering tonight that there are energy workers, energy healers, right? And, well, we all know that energy has impact on patient survival. We all know that. That's why they benefit from both quantity and the quality of life. But how does it work? Again, remember my picture with Einstein? That was actually a very interesting museum. But he taught me, and I guess everybody else, energy converts to material. Wow. Does that mean that epigenetics can change the gene?
Yeah.
So what you cannot see can turn to something you see. What do you think, Jim? We've called this what, resurrection? Right? Energy and material. So what you don't see becomes what you see. Okay. Imagine that going back to what I said again in the previous slides, logics, right? Logics tells us that there's a cause and there's effect, right? So if I have, let's say, a pen or something in my hand, let me see what I found. This card, okay. I have this card, and the cause of this drop from the time that I have this card from here to the point that it falls to ground. This is cause, this is effect. Right? You drop it, cause, effect. So cause starts a process to an effect. What if cause and effect had no time difference? Then cause and effect would have been the same. You got it? So if energy converts to material, and energy is the cause, and the material is the effect. And there is no time between the two. The energy is material. You got it? I'm good in math, I think. I love it. I don't want to lose this card. Okay, so long story short, epigenetic regulations impact genetics and cause cancer. So how does that work? Again, philosophically, we call it God, energy, karma. Now it makes sense. So when a patient comes to see me and they have lung cancer, and they have specifically the type of lung cancer that happens only in smokers, and I ask them, are you a smoker? They tell me no. I immediately know their parents were a smoker. So you see the generation that passed from the father to the mother, sorry, father doesn't pass generation to mother. From the father to the son or the daughter is the only matter of time. There is no other difference, as if you are smoking or your dad was smoking, because the cause and effect are the same. That's how the epigenetics work. So now you get a little bit more understanding of philosophical term of karma. So how can we fix this? My dad was a smoker. I didn't do anything about it. Now I got lung cancer. Dr. Nizami, what the hell should I do? Go take my dad out of the grave and say, give me good genes? So the beautiful thing about karma, as you know, and it is defined in our scriptures, is that God forgives. And how does that work? You see Dr. Nizami. So, technically speaking, what we do is that we go back on the time where the insult happened epigenetically and we reverse it. The good news about epigenetics is that it is reversible. So, although it is inheritable, but you can switch back on and off the keys and you turn back the DNA to the normal transcriptional phase. That's how these patients that you saw came here and testified tonight got cured, because I turned back the clock and went back to the time that the insult happened during their fetal stages of development or even before in their parents, and I switched it back. And little art helps. Okay, next. I talked about this stuff. If you don't need a drink, I do now. Okay. All right, next one. All right, this is again the illustration of what I just told you. Epigenetics switch on and off the genes. So caterpillar and butterfly, they basically it's the same creature. They go. The caterpillar goes through different stages of growth and development by switching on and off the genes. And therefore, phenotypically, it looks different in different stages. So if you think about caterpillar and butterfly, they have exactly the same gene. So that's where our treatment is going to reverse the caterpillar back to butterfly, because butterfly is more beautiful than caterpillar. But if you imagine that a cancer patient is caterpillar or butterfly, and before cancer, it was the other one, we can turn it back. Next. And then you see these sort of scans that the patient becomes with wide metastatic disease, as you can see on the left side. All those dark spots in the bone are cancer with high metabolic activity. Entire skeletal bones are obviously showing like a Christmas tree in the PET scan, and then on the right side, cancer is completely gone. You see little dark spots, those are urine in the kidneys and bladder, and the brain obviously is always positive. This patient accomplished complete response. Next. This is the NCI letter. I just put it here for fun because when I went to the National Cancer Institute and I told them, I got something. And they looked at me and they said, what's your success? And I said, 90%. And the guy looked at me with open eyes. I never forget, is the head of the NCI Chem department, looked at me with wide eyes like this. And he said, if you, Dr. Nizami, tell me you have 10%, I would believe you. Because with the best standard of care, we have 4% success. And I said, okay, then you don't believe me, I guess. So he said, no, I don't believe you. And then they hired 3 oncology consulting groups that they went through my data, and finally they sent me this approval letter that all 3 oncology consultant groups, they approved their treatment as effective treatment for cancer. Next one. A little bit talk about quality of life. So what we like to see in our patients is that we want them not only to respond, but also we don't want any toxicity. So we want patients to improve their sense of well-being, their mood, their energy, their pain goes away. All those are unfortunately the side effects of my treatment, so you're going to feel much better. And there are studies that I was looking at them. 75%. This is published. It was published in Journal of Hematology Oncology, May, I believe, that 75% of oncologists do not report the patient's symptoms honestly. This was published in conventional journal. That when they looked at clinical trials, for example, the patient says, I have pain. And then they mark the patient doesn't have pain. Wow. 75%. So, next one. This is a child that is throwing up by chemotherapy, and the 6-year-old sister is holding him while he's going through this nonsense. Before we had a pediatric oncologist in the gathering who came from Chalk Hospital, and before we came in, she just took me to a corner and she said, Dr. Nizami, I am tired of giving these kids chemotherapy. I am tired of seeing these kids going through this suffering. But I have no other choice because I lose my people. What can I do in this system? Please see them, please help. I said, okay. But this picture should not be there. This should be a picture of 1950, 60, 70, 80, not in 2021. This is absolutely ridiculous. And unless people like you who are sitting here and care about this, nobody else does. Unless you are affected by a kid just like that, you don't know how difficult it is to go through this. This is why it is a personal mission, should be a personal mission for all of us tonight, that when we leave this room, think that we have a message, we have a duty, we have a responsibility to make sure that we get this information out. Next. So we want to improve both quantity and quality of life. As I said, we don't want any patient to go through any suffering. In fact, we look at the ECOG score, performance scores of the patients before and after the treatment, and we have 100% improved quality of life in a matter of just a few days. I have 0 patients now, even with very advanced cancer, that is on narcotic. 0 patients that are taking painkillers of any kind. I don't remember last time I prescribed Vicodin. And then look at oncology centers And what do? As soon as the patient says, I have pain, here, take this pill 3 times a day. And if it's not enough, take 5 times a day. Next one. So that kid should become like this kid. And unfortunately, we do not have the noise, but this little guy, can you play it? Is actually singing Michael Jackson. Yeah, that's what I mean by quality of life. Good for you. Next one. I'm done.
Thank you, everyone, again for attending and supporting us. We appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules to be here. I can't thank you enough. So another round of applause for all of you. So next, before I continue to silent auction, I just want to quickly, I forgot to mention someone in my team that's very important to us. And he traveled a long way to be here tonight. So Mario, I forgot you before, and I apologize. he's up in Bakersfield, so I don't see him a lot of face-to-face. It's all email and texting, but he's here and he came a long way, so I want to make sure everybody knows who he is, and we appreciate you, Mario. Thank you. So next I will go over the silent auction. Let's see the top bidders. Let's see, the first one we have is for the complimentary one-night weekend stay at DoubleTree Irvine. Letitia Taggio? Come on up. No problem. Everyone that is a silent auction winner, you just go to the entry, the desk where they welcomed you, and then they'll help you with the process of taking the payment. The next complimentary one-night weekend stay at DoubleTree Irvine goes to, it looks like Kristen Garrett? I'm sorry, it's hard to read. Kristen Carson? Kristen? Okay, we'll go to the next one. This one's for the Larry Bird and Magic Johnson hand-signed 16x20 masterpiece, and this is going to Jason Garcia. You can just go up to the desk. They'll have your info. And then next was a set of 2 Angels versus Seattle Mariners tickets, and that's Mario Chavez. And the next set of 4 Angels, Seattle Mariners, goes to Carlos. Our Carlos. This is a light stem for wrinkles. This went to Andrea Yazus? Okay. Congratulations. And then we have a 2022 private dinner and concert at Andrea Bocelli's Tuscan Estate. And this went to Tom Muehlbauer. Thank you. I apologize. It's hard to read the handwriting. Congratulations. And thank you. The next was the Rat Pack Sands Casino Masterpiece and Collage. It went to Jeffrey Benton. The Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin Drinking Buddies Masterpiece. It was the same. Christy Garrett? Chrissy Garcia. Okay. That's you. Yep. Marilyn Monroe performing the Troops masterpiece. That's it. Thank you very much and congrats. The next was the Steve Jobs Think Different masterpiece, and that goes to our very own Zari. Yes. And then the last, we're repeating back to the 1 weekend stay here at the DoubleTree Irvine. It was Christy. Right over there. Yeah, so you were a 2-time winner. So just make sure you stop at the welcome desk, and we'll be sure to give you all the information and take payment for that. Everyone else, we really appreciate, again, I can't thank you enough for coming and celebrating with us. We're so happy to have you here. So a round of applause for everybody, and thanks again. Enjoy your night and drive home safely.